In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact step-by-step plan to land your first high-paying client in 2025 as a software engineer, even if you've never sold anything before. For those of you who are new, welcome. I'm Bago, former NASA dev and Fortune 500 manager who walked away from it all to build my very own 7-figure consulting firm. Without funding, luck, or virality. I've helped dozens of engineers land their first $5,000 to $15,000 a month clients using the same exact 5-step playbook that I will be showing you right now, all without quitting their job nor gambling on some half-built SaaS. Let's get straight into it. There's really 5 steps to actually getting your first client as a software engineer in 2025, and the first step begins by understanding your who. Now, why do we care who we're talking to? Well, because there's a very big difference between the hype and the reality. More specifically, many people believe all client acquisition really is just choosing a proper niche that sounds profitable. It can be dentists or realtors, and just you start pitching left and right. That is not how this works, okay? You need to understand who it is you're really speaking to before you even send your email, before you even send out any DMs and do anything of that sort. If you do not have an understanding of who you're talking to, all your client acquisition will be in vain because you will not see any results and you'll blame and say that client acquisition doesn't work, cold email doesn't work, organic content doesn't work, whatever the case. You'll blame the tools as opposed to blaming yourself because you missed the first crucial step, understanding your who. Now, keep in mind all the steps that I'm going to go through. At the very end of the video, I'm going to deep dive and show you exactly in real time how you're going to do all of these steps. I'm going to do it utilizing Gemini, which is Google's AI, and I have 5 very specific prompts, deep research prompts that I spent pretty much, I would say, months finalizing such that you can use it for your own client acquisition process. Let's continue on. So understand that successful client businesses start by first deeply understanding who they help, what that person cares about, and the specific pain that they're facing at this exact moment. The best way you can do this is to construct what's called an ideal customer profile, an ICP, as you might have heard of it. Now, at its core, all an ICP really is just a detailed description of the perfect client for your business. Now, when I say perfect client, I don't just mean demographics. It's about understanding the characteristics of the companies or individuals who will gain the most value from your product or service. So ideally speaking, an ICP, right, the ideal customer in this specific case, is somebody who you can charge a lot and at the same time they gain the most from your product or service. Now, when it comes to, of course, there's variation between B2C and B2B. And for B2C, you'll primarily take a look at what's called demographics, right? So age, income, gender, education level, geographic location. For B2B, you'll look at what's called the firmographics, so industry, company size, revenue, location, technological maturity, and so on and so forth. These are just some of the things listed. But you'll also take a look at the psychographics behind the person or the business itself. And what values do they have, their attitude, interest, lifestyle, and what are their goals and aspirations in the grand scheme of things. And you look at their pain points and challenges. What specific problems are they facing that your offering can solve? And the more acute the pain, understand that the more motivated they will be to seek a solution. Now, notice how over here we're already talking about the offer. Well, keep in mind that you can have sort of an offer in the back of your mind right now as to what you're going to be offering. But through completing the client acquisition process, right, you will then reiterate your offer and make it a lot better. And you'll see as we continue going down in the steps. Now, after you create your ICP, what you want to do is create what's called a buyer persona. So while the ICP describes the ideal company, buyer personas represent the different types of individuals you will interact with during the sales process. For example, a single B2B sale might involve a researcher, a decision maker, and an end user, each with different motivations and information needs. So to create what's called a buyer persona, you're going to need a fictional name and title, that individual's role within the company and their responsibilities, their primary goals and what success looks like for them, their preferred communication channels and where they go for information, their biggest challenges and how they are currently trying to address them. Why are we doing this? Well, the ICP, right, we do this to really understand who it is we're talking to. The buyer persona, we're doing to see who exactly we have to pitch, right? Because oftentimes in your sales cycle, it's not only going to be one decision maker. You might have to deal with a few individuals. Now, ideal scenario is one decision maker, but in case it's not, that's why we have a buyer persona. After the buyer persona, we do what's called conducting market research, okay? So we leverage analytics, so website and social media analytics to understand the demographics and behavior of our online audience, and we take a look at our competitors. So who are our competitors targeting, where are they finding success, and can this reveal any untapped market segments? Now, all of this can really be just done with one simple prompt. So let us go to Gemini such that you can see the prompt that I'm referring to. And don't worry, this will be in the description below such that you can use it yourself. So you can pause and read through the prompt. It is quite lengthy, and just know that a lot of work went into this prompt. But for the sake of time in this video, I'm not going to go through the prompt itself. What I am going to do is just fill in the blanks, as you can see, because there are certain portions that you have to fill out. So my business, I'm just going to put, let's just say, demo, and then my product or service. So in 1 to 2 sentences, clearly describe what you sell. For example, we offer a subscription-based project management software specifically for architectural firms to manage blueprints, client feedback, and construction timelines. That's exactly what I'm going to go with, actually. And then specific, my target industry or niche, I'm going to do residential architectural firms in North America. And then my top known 3 competitors, I'm going to put, I do not know, please find these for me. And then my best current client, of course, this is optional. If you did already have a client, it would help you out. But in this case, since we don't have a client and we're looking to get our first client, no clients as of this moment. And then all we have to do is just click the deep research, which are already triggered, and then send it out. And now let's wait and see what we get. So this will probably take a little bit of time. And while this is cooking up, we're gonna go back to our actual presentation and we'll go through step 2 while step 1 is finishing up, because all these steps are in chronological order, meaning we're gonna need to do them sorting from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4, then to step 5. So nevertheless, the waiting isn't really hurting us too much. Now, keep in mind that me starting this off with the who is probably the most important thing you need to understand. Most software engineers that I know completely overlook this aspect. They just want to get straight into things, they want to rush, they want to start then sending out emails, DMs, but they don't quite understand who it is they're reaching out to. It's just a name, it's just a number. Because people have always heard it's a numbers game, you just got to reach out. They disassociate the who with the message they're sending out to. So they don't think they're sending out to a person. They think they're sending it out to an email or a phone number or a LinkedIn account, but they don't quite grasp the who behind who it actually is that they're sending the message to, right? So ready in a few minutes, let's start the research and let us go back to our next step 2 while that research is being finished. So now, step 2 of our client acquisition process, right, getting our first client in 2025 as a software engineer, after we define who it is that we want, well, we need now to capture their attention and start generating leads. So once you know exactly who you're targeting, this step is all about making them aware of you or your business. And the goal is to strategically place your message in front of your ideal clients in a way that captures their interest and compels them to take the first step, turning from a stranger into what's called a lead. Keep in mind that there's really only 2 ways that you can capture attention and generate leads, okay? These 2 ways are known as inbound marketing or outbound marketing. Within inbound and outbound marketing, you're probably familiar with them, there are a plethora of other ways that you can reach out to people, right? But on a grand scheme of things, from a high-level perspective, these are the only 2 ways you can find people, right? You can find leads. Inbound is all about your leads finding you. So think of this as a pull, right? You're pulling the customers in, you're pulling your leads in. Outbound, on the other hand, is you finding them. So think of this as you pushing your message out into the world, right? Specifically to a very specific person, be it through cold email, be it through a LinkedIn DM or whatever the case. Inbound, right? For example, you watching this video, this is inbound marketing. Inbound is a lot more long-term in nature, okay? It takes months, sometimes even years, to nurture a proper inbound campaign such that you have consistent leads in your pipeline. On the other hand, outbound, it's short-term in nature. That's not to say you can't do outbound for a very long time. No, you definitely can. You can run email campaigns for a long amount of time. You can run ads for a long amount of time, as long as they're profitable, as long as you're getting an ROI on it. But in general, outbound is considered to be a lot shorter term as opposed to inbound when it comes to getting results. So outbound, it will take you less time to get results with. However, you might be wondering, okay, if outbound is shorter term, why do we care about inbound? Well, because inbound builds trust and authority. And what inbound does that outbound can never ever do is inbound actually nurtures people for us. And inbound, it's a lot easier to sell to and close. Whereas outbound, you're trying to convert strangers into essentially buyers. Inbound does that for you. Strangers find you, and you not doing anything, them just watching your content or reading your blog post or whatever it is that you posted and whatever it is that you did, right? They get to build trust over time and they purchase from you. So the king of inbound is, in this day and age, organic content. And the king of outbound are cold outreach / paid ads. Now, of course, you'll have people that succeeded with Instagram DMs, LinkedIn DMs, right? Those are part of cold outreach. I'm just going to say cold outreach / paid ads, even though there are a few other things you can do, such as webinars and things like that. I'm just going to do this to keep things simple, okay? But do understand that on a practical level, outbound, it's a lot more predictable, and the results can be very immediate, especially if you know what you're doing. Inbound is definitely going to take a little bit of time, especially because a lot of inbound is heavily dependent on the algorithm, right? You can't quite, quote unquote, force your way into it. Whereas outbound, you can most definitely force your way into it. You can force your way into people's DMs. You can force your way into people's email inboxes. You can force your way into people's phones, right, by calling them. You can force your way into people's homes even if you go and start knocking on strangers' doors. So outbound, it's a more gung-ho approach. You're pushing your message out into the world. Inbound, people find you, okay? Now, once again, this can be completely done with just a simple prompt. So let's take a look and see if our first prompt is done. It looks like it is almost done. So let's take a look and see what is happening. So it's starting the research journey, and then it's finding websites, competitors, understanding the market, analyzing it. So it's now refining our ICP, understanding core problems and urgency. So while it's doing this, I'm going to go ahead and prepare our second prompt. So our second prompt, right, it's all about what we just talked about, capturing attention and generating leads, right? So in this specific case, we need to analyze all this information. So this is the second prompt. So this prompt, once again, if you want to pause and read the prompt, you're more than welcome to. But in this specific case, I'm going to just fill in what needs to be filled in, and I'll have them down below in the description so you can check them out yourself. So in this specific case, what we need to fill in is the context, okay? So for this, use the previous information available to you. And I'm going to copy paste this for all of it because now Gemini should have this information already. And let us go over here. There we go. And I'm just going to use the information now previously so it doesn't get confused. And once that is done, and I believe it is done, let me double check, almost. So once this is done, what we'll do is generate an infographic from it just to see what everything is going to look like on a grand scheme of things, and we can get a better visual. But this is essentially how you would go about it. So this will take you, right, this client acquisition process that we're going to go through will probably take you about an hour to do if you follow everything I'm telling you, but it will save you days, if not weeks, if not months of time. And of course, you're not going to understand everything instantly just from this one little thing. But what you will do is this is the perfect example of 20% of work that you're going to do that's going to get you 80% of the results. Okay, so this is a very crucial thing here that we're doing. So let's wait for this to finish up. It should be relatively close. I'll probably speed this up so you guys don't have to sit through and watch this. Or I'll maybe just skip ahead and wait until the research itself is done, and then we'll come back to it once it's done. Okay, perfect. So there you go. It's finished our report. Now this is a lot of information and a lot of text. What I want them to do is I want Gemini to put this into an infographic such that it's easier for me to read it and understand it, right? They say picture is worth 1,000 words, and this is the exact reason why we're going to create an infographic out of it. And I already have the next prompt actually ready for us to deep research, and this one once again will be, guess what, let me open this up in full screen. There we go. As you can see, So what we're going to do is the most effective marketing channels and create specific content and outreach examples. The output must be practical and ready to execute. Meaning what we're going to do based on our ICP, because we have so many different ways, right? For example, organic content, we can do that on YouTube, we can do that on Twitter, we can do that on LinkedIn, we can do that on Instagram. Outbound, we can do cold DMs, cold emails, all these different things. How do we know which one we're going to choose? So in general, I recommend starting off, you choose one inbound, one outbound. The first one you want to do is you want to start from your outbound, get at least one testimonial, and then from that one testimonial, you want to feed that back into the outbound. But initially, we're going to start off with one outbound and one inbound. But how are we going to choose which inbound or outbound we do, right? Do I choose cold emails in YouTube? How do I do? Well, how do I decide? Well, that's where our research comes into play. So I'm going to wait for the code to finish up, and then we can take a look at the preview. And in the meantime, what I'm going to do, perfect. So this is done, and I'm going to deep research our next prompt. And while this is cooking up, I'm going to take a look at this. So unlocking efficiency for agile architects. A data-driven analysis of the project management software market reveals a significant underserved niche, the small residential architectural firm. So this is perfect. The vast majority of architectural firms in North America are small operations. These firms form a substantial market segment, often overlooked by enterprise-grade software solutions that are too complex and costly for their specific needs. Alrighty, so it looks like it kind of locked me in here. I can't quite take it out. What I can do though is open this in a new tab. Give me one sec. I'm gonna have to share it later. Can't quite preview it. I have to wait until the thing is done. The stuff here is done. But we can take a look at it this way, at least from a fundamental perspective. So we can see that when it comes to our ICP, right, we see residential architectural firms, 2 to 19 employees is the sweet spot. Their annual revenue should be between 100,000 and 2 million. Technographics, so they use CAD software, AutoCAD, and things like that. And then we have our entire kind of like list. So industry, residential architectural firms, geography, North America, US and Canada, AutoCAD, spreadsheets, email, generic PM tools, disorganized blueprints, chaotic client feedback via email, poor timeline visibility. And then core problem and urgency in their own words. We're drowning in blueprint revisions, keeping track of the latest version across the stream, and with clients is a nightmare related to costly mistakes on site. Client feedback is all over the place. Emails, calls, scribbled notes, it's impossible to track. Things get missed and clients get frustrated. They have to repeat themselves. Business plan articulation, wasted resources, damaged client relationship and reputation, blah, 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 blah. Interesting enough, we got an anti-client profile, right? And then let's go to our buyer persona, since we did ask for that as well. So title role, principal architect or the owner of the architectural firm with 2 to 19 employees. We even have a day in a life. Very interesting, right? So typically starts early, often around 6 or 7 a.m. with an initial check of emails for any urgent client inquiries or updates from contractors. So you would just understanding this information, you can time your email to be at around, let's say, 6:30 or 7:30, such that when they check their emails, they can see your email, okay? Let's scroll down. Deliver unique, high quality residential designs. Information that I think we just had, it's doing a little bit of lag. Give me one sec. Okay, there we go. It gave us the new stuff. So this is foundation to build upon based on a detailed intelligence report. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, so it found out that the top 2 marketing channels with the highest possibility of capturing their attention are, so this is based on the buyer persona, by the way. The Alex Chen is the buyer persona that we created over here. And based on the buyer persona, LinkedIn and Google search seem to be the top 2 ways for inbound, okay? Watering hole, we have LinkedIn groups, and then Reddit, so architecture group over 110,000 members, PMI architecture over 243,000 members. So our inbound pull strategy, right, what are we gonna do? Let's take a look and see what it gave us. So it gave us ideas, the residential architect's blueprint for sanity. Of course, the names here you're gonna have to change because this is a little bit too much AI. Usually you can easily tell if there's a colon in here that it was generated by AI, but nevertheless, it still gives us the proper pains to address, right? And supporting content, we have these, so blog posts for each thing. We even have the titles, lead, Magnet concept is the high value resource offered in exchange for contact information. So we'll see what the lead magnet is. In this case, checklist and template pack for flawless blueprint management, crystal clear client feedback, and on-time project delivery. So could include a blueprint version tracking template, a client feedback constellation, essentially everything that was addressed in the pain point over here that we did. And then now we have the outbound push strategy. So we help principal architects at busy residential firms cut through the chaos of blueprint management and client communication so they can stop losing billable hours, administrative fires, get back to designing profitable projects. And then we have a little bit of, hi Alex, many principal architects at residential firms mentioned the constant juggle. Very basic email, right? Nothing too crazy. This isn't going to get you too many calls booked, but it is a good starting point with regards to how you're supposed to essentially go about it. This is just the first draft of everything that you're doing. From this information, you can use it to even further tailor all of the output, and you can get highly personalized emails and things like that down the line, right? But perfect. So now we have this information. So we have our, essentially what we did, right? So LinkedIn and Google search was our inbound method, so SEO. We're gonna go with LinkedIn for inbound, and outbound, we're gonna go with cold emails as talked about. So we have LinkedIn, and we have cold emails. And we got examples of both with regards to what we want to do. And while that's actually doing that, let me open up the infographic so we can see it here. So blueprint create chaos, this is the number one thing that we saw. The high cost of the status quo, 5 to 10 hours, improvement, okay. Competitive positioning. So let's see, Monograph, that looks to be our biggest competitor. Can be costly, not hyper-focused on residential workflows. There we go. So in our ICP, this will be a perfect marketing angle as well that we can do. Competition is way too broad, too complex or too expensive. So this is a perfect thing. So here's our buyer persona, right? I'm Alex Chan, the principal architect. The ideal buyer is an overwhelmed generalist, a talented designer, forced to spend too much time on administration. Understanding their goals and pains is key to providing a true solution. These are their pain and frustrations. This is the goal and aspirations. And of course, unique selling proposition. Project management software designed exclusively for residential architecture firms. Master your blueprints, streamline client feedback, and control timelines with an intuitive platform that delivers rapid ROI with the enterprise complexity or cost. So perfect. Now, what I want to do is kind of massage this information a little bit more. Since we chose LinkedIn for inbound and cold email for outbound, let us personalize our outreach messages and our organic content to fit directly with Alex Chan's pains and frustrations and goals and aspirations. So let's see what this does. And in the meantime, we're going to move on to our next step, which is nurturing and qualifying. So not every lead that we get is going to be ready to buy the moment they discover us. And this crucial middle step is all about building a relationship over time and systematically determining which leads are a good fit and which are not, because not all of them will be a good fit. And this prevents you from wasting time on dead-end leads. Now, when it comes to, let's say from an inbound perspective, right? An inbound person, you have a cold audience member, watches maybe one video, maybe 2 videos, maybe 3 videos. They invest a little bit of time, let's say 4 to 6 hours of watching and consuming your content, and they become a warm person. Okay, they like you now, they trust you. This entire process is called a nurturing process, okay? Now, on the other hand, let's assume this warm person now, right, books a call with you, or you directly from actual doing outreach, get somebody to book a call with you utilizing cold outreach. And they have to fill out a form to book a call with you, right? And then in this form, you'll ask a few questions to see if they're financially able to even buy what it is that you're selling, right? And you're offering just basic qualifying questions. Well, this is the qualification phase, okay? So let's take a look and see how it did with regards to our, okay, this is our top priority. Why is it priority? Oh, and also, to completely slip my mind, but LinkedIn, we can do both as our inbound and also our outbound. So this is perfect as well on top of the cold email. Inbound strategy, so there we go. Residential architect's playbook for operability, ultimate guide that walks through the real cost of disorganized project management. So more so pain-aware type of solutions that it's giving, gives us some blogs that we can do, right? The single biggest mistake architects make with blueprint version control and how to fix it. This is actually a really good one. This one I don't like. Is your good enough project management system secretly costing you thousands? And not bad. The top 3 project management blind spots of the relevant residential projects, not bad either. But title 1 is really good, actually, for this. You can even ask it to make the lead magnet. But then here we have the outbound one, right? As a principle of a growing residential firm, I imagine that juggling client feedback and ensuring everyone on the project has the right blueprint version can be a constant challenge. We've been exploring how firms are moving away from scattered emails and drop links. So this is a little too AI-ish still. I would maybe make this a little less formal, have it more informal, a bit more friendly with a bit more personalization, but nevertheless, still a very good starting point. And with that, that moves us to our third prompt, which is for our nurturing sequence. Now, why do we need a nurturing sequence? Well, for the viewer to come in from your organic, right, from your inbound and go through this process, there needs to be a nurturing process. And likewise, for somebody from outbound to come in and actually for you to turn into a sale, you need to qualify them. You can't just get them on a call without them being qualified, right? So this is where our third prompt comes into play. So let's run another deep research prompt. Let's make this full screen and from previous response. Actually, I'm going to just do this myself. I am going to cut that out and I'm just going to paste it here. There we go. Alrighty. And then I'm going to submit this. So what this exact essentially prompt is going to do is going to do 2 things for us. It's going to design a lead nurture sequence and also a lead qualification framework. Okay. So what we want to do is whenever we have the nurturing and the qualification campaigns, we want to run them, okay? After we run them, we want to analyze their performance. How well did they do, right? Which one performed better? Which one performed worse? And from that, we want to identify the winning script or winning email or winning copy, whatever it is that you wrote, right? And we really want to isolate the key value drivers. If one won over the other, right? If A won over B, why did A win? We need to understand that. Was it maybe because you mentioned a specific word in there, keyword, maybe something very specific to your audience that it resonated with them, right? Really try to isolate the key value drivers within the winning script and try to understand why that script won. This is extremely important. Just because A won, you don't say, okay, perfect, A won, let's move on. No, you try to understand why A won over B. Then you want to refine and scale your approach, right? So if A won, what you want to do is, well, refine it, see if you can make it even better, and start scaling it, sending more. You can scale either horizontally, right, or vertically. So do more of what it is that you're currently doing, or utilize on a bigger scale. So if, let's say you're running ads, you can either create one campaign and increase the ad spend on that campaign, or what you can do is create multiple ad campaigns for a specific budget. So let's say I have $100 in my budget and I have a successful ad campaign. What I can do is I can scale that budget to $100, that would be a vertical scale, or I can create 5 $20 ad campaigns, copies of my existing ones, and that would be horizontal scale, okay? And last but not least, we want to, of course, measure the KPIs of what it is we're exactly doing, and the loop feeds itself. As we measure the KPIs and see which one performs best, we analyze the campaign performance with our new KPIs, and the cycle repeats forever and ever. And while this is being done, okay, let's not jump ahead to present a solution just yet, because we do need the nurturing and an actual qualification sequence here. But you'll understand how everything's being used, right? So what we did initially is we found our ICP, we fed our ICP and buyer persona into understanding what specific inbound and marketing strategies we need to use, right? So which inbound do we go with, which outbound do we go with? Turns out LinkedIn is the best for both. LinkedIn, you can even do cold email for the outbound one. But nevertheless, we found our ICP and our buyer persona. We then found where we want to target them. So we found our who, we found out where they are, and then we found out how to target them, right? What message to send to them. And now what we're gonna do is essentially make that process of them finding us and us qualifying them as simple as possible by this simple prompt that we sent out. So let's see what we got back. We got a lot of information back, so let's take a look. Because, okay, that's just the context. So let's take a look at the lead nurture sequence design. So this 3 email sequence is triggered after Alex Chen downloads the Residential Architects Project Rescue Kit. So this is from when we send them, let's say, a LinkedIn message, or we create a LinkedIn post. they take a look at the lead magnet, they download it. These are the emails they get. So the goal of the first email is to reinforce the value of the downloaded kit, build empathy by acknowledging the challenges, and offer a quick win or tip related to the kit's usage. So briefly start by acknowledging that they've taken a positive step by downloading the kit, briefly reiterate, blah, 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 what are the case. And then email 2 to offer a new perspective on a core pain point, and then email 3 to connect the dots between solving operational pains and achieving. And what you can do is literally, I can say, write out the actual emails yourself, and we can go from there. So it gave us an example here, but nevertheless, now you know exactly what to do. And then we have part 2, lead qualification framework. So this is what's called a BANT, okay? Now the way BANT works, it's actually quite interesting, but it's the best way that, one of the best ways, I shouldn't really say the best way, but it's one of the best ways that you can use to ask questions about your leads and qualify them, okay? So BANT really stands for budget questions, authority questions, need questions, and timeline questions, okay? So this is how you're gonna qualify your leads. You're gonna ask the budget question. Do they have the financial capacity to buy from you? If not, then they're not qualified. Authority, right? Are they the decision maker? Can they say, yes, let's proceed with this, and can they give you the money? If not, you're wasting your time with them, right? The need question, is this something that they really need as of this moment right now, or just gonna be a time waster and wasting your time? And of course, the timeline question, to understand their implementation plans and urgency to act. Is this something that they're gonna act on now, or is this something they're gonna say, oh, let's just wait 6 months, okay? Those are the BANT qualifications. And then, of course, we have the sales hands-off. So this is essentially, once we have nurtured them, it is now time to move on to step 4. And that is to actually present a solution and handle any objections that they will have. So this is the already active sales stage. So everything beforehand essentially was finding out who it is that we're helping, right? And then finding out the best possible way to capture their attention and capture them as a lead, and then nurturing our leads and qualifying them, and now we have them on a sales call, okay? Now this is the active sales cycle. So you've identified a qualified prospect who has a real need, and now your job is to diagnose their specific situation and present your service not as a generic product, but as a specific solution to their problem. Most of you will probably do what's called a discovery call. Now, this is the most important sales meeting. Okay, and I'm gonna give you a little caveat right after this, but let me explain what a discovery call is. It's a structured conversation where your primary goal is to listen and ask intelligent questions. Your aim is to diagnose their challenges, goals, and the full scope of their problem. Always think of doctor and patient analogy, okay? You are the doctor, they are the patient. So you should only talk 20% of the time, and they should talk 80% of the time. If you're doing more than 20% of the talking, you need to shut up, okay? It's as simple as that. Now, sometimes some people will have a discovery call and then a separate sales call. In my opinion, you can do both in one. You can have a discovery call and you can also sell on the very same discovery call because of the nature of a doctor and a patient. The way this works, if you do it properly, right? Once the patient understands that they are in fact looking for a solution because they're in pain, they want to be pain-free, and they realize that this current doctor will be the bridge to that, they'll have no problem going with you. All your job really is to properly see if you can even help this patient in the first place, and if what it is that they're having, right, the pain point, you do have a proper solution for. And what you need to understand is you never, ever, ever use a one-size-fits-all sales pitch, okay? Your presentation must be a direct response to what you learned in the discovery call. Most of the time, this will be, remember, as I said, discovery call and sales call can be in the same exact call. What you'll do in the first half is essentially discovery, and then you'll tailor the language to fit that specific individual in the call. The reason you can't use a one-size-fits-all is because not everybody is the same. Everybody is different. Everybody has different motivations. Everybody has different goals. And even the pain points that everybody has, they feel different symptoms of that same pain point, right? So your presentation must be a very direct response to what you learned in the discovery call. What you can do is you can structure it like this. So restate the problem to make sure that they know that you know what problem they have, right? Summarize their challenges to show that you listened and actually understood their world that they were talking about. Then you want to present your solution. So connect each feature or aspect of your service directly to a specific pain point that they mentioned. So if they mentioned, oh, I'm worried about A, B, and C, or these are the pain points that I have, you want to connect each feature or part of your solution to each of these and mention how they address each of these solutions. Then you want to prove the value, so focus on outcome and ROI. Show them how your service will save money, increase revenue, or reduce risk. The best way to do this, case studies and testimonials, right? If you don't have any because you don't have your first client yet, right, in this specific case, what you can do is either have hypotheticals, or if you worked for free for somebody, you can include that as a testimonial. But if you don't have any of those, what you can do is literally show them through a demo how your service will save them money, increase revenue, or reduce risk. You can share your screens and run them through a hypothetical situation. That's better than nothing. And then, of course, last but not least, it comes to objection handling. So objections aren't necessarily rejections, they are requests for more information or reassurance. And you want to anticipate the common ones ahead of time, the extra expenses, we don't have time for implementation, how does it compare to competitors, and have prepared confident answers that reframe the value. Now, the secret to objection handling is to handle them before they even come up. So deal with objections before they come up. So in your line of questioning, you should already answer most of these objections yourself, okay? So what does success look like from the perspective of presenting a solution handling objections? Well, the prospect feels deeply understood and the conversation shifts from what does it cost to when can we start, okay? And of course, likewise, we also have a proper script for this. So let's take a look and see what this one, I said script, a prompt, what this one is gonna do for us. So I'm going to put that out, and then I'm gonna put that in, I am going to put that in, and I'm gonna put that in, and then I'm gonna hit enter, and let's see what Gemini cooks up. But thus far, we already have a lot of information to go off of. So we know our niche, we know where they are, LinkedIn, we know what content we're going to make, both the inbound and outbound outreach we're gonna do, right? And we know the lead magnet that we're gonna come up with. And now all we really need to do is just put that into action, actually do that, start getting the prospects, start getting the leads coming in, and now based on the prompt that we're gonna get, we're gonna learn how to deal with these prospects and these leads to convert them to a paying customer. So while this is cooking up, let us move on to the last step, presenting the solution and handling objections. So the final step is all about making the transaction as smooth as possible and, most importantly, beginning the client relationship on a high note. A professional closing and a structured onboarding process are critical for long-term client retention and creating brand advocates. Why do we care about client retention? Because in my humble opinion, client retention is way more important than client acquisition. Let's say in a year, you get 10 clients, okay? And these 10 clients get you $1,000 a month. That's essentially $12,000 per client per year. You are making $120,000. Okay? Now, let's assume in this specific case, each of these clients stays with you for only 1 year. And then next year, you have to find new clients. As opposed to these same 10 clients, right? Second year comes along, and they're still paying you the $1,000 a month, right? Now, second year, you're making, so if this is year 1, this is year 2, you're making another 120. But if we assume that you had a little bit of churn, right? So this is how much you had first year, but then second year, for some reason, half of your clients churned, and now you have only 60,000. That's $60,000 less in revenue, okay? To make up for this, for the third year, you have to get 5 extra new clients. Keep in mind, these extra new clients will have what's called a CAC, a customer acquisition cost. These aren't going to be free. So whatever you spend on this is going to have to come from these. So that's why it's so much more important and profitable to continue retaining clients. Because once you already retain them, once you spend that CAC to get them, it then becomes an infinite sum game of how long can you retain them, right? How much higher can you increase your LTV, okay? Let's take a look if this is done. It is not. So I'll probably fast forward this until this is done because for the next step of our actual closing process, we're going to need this information. So I'll just either fast forward this or skip this until we get to that point. Okay, perfect. So we got our response back. Let's take a look and see if it actually did it correctly from the beginning. So we can see the recap. We offer subscription-based, that's correct. Ideal customer profile is correct. And then primary buyer persona pain point, also correct. Okay, so now let's see. So discovery call framework, problem and pain questions. So these are the exact questions that we can ask on the exact sales call. Okay, so now we have an actual script that we can tailor to our prospects that come up. So let's see. Alex, can you walk me through your firm's current process when a client requests a change to a blueprint? For instance, how is that request typically received, and how do you ensure the entire team and any relevant contractors are working off the latest version, and what challenges, if any, arise with that process? Okay, so this is probing the blueprint chaos and some of the communication breakdown problems that we saw. And then when it comes to managing client feedback across multiple residential products, what does that system look like today? And you can see 5 questions that are primed, right, with regards to problem and pain questions. We have dream and desired outcome questions, right? So if you could wave a magic wand and have the perfect system. Oh, this is such a cliche one. Many people use this, but it's not bad. And then we have a value and ROI question, right? If your firm could reclaim, say, 5 to 10 hours per architect per week by streamlining these processes, what would the approximate financial value of that reclaimed time be? When project errors, blah, blah, blah. So these are perfect questions, to be honest with you. In general, the way that these calls go, right, is you probe the question, you probe the pain points and the problems that the person has, and then you essentially, so you show them that they're here. Pain, sad, okay? And what you do is you create a dream and desired outcome for them. So now situation B, they're happy, okay? And what you want to do is, as you create this and you create this, you want to bridge the gap between them, okay? And that bridge is from the value and ROI perspective. And of course, we have the customized proposal and demo structure. Here's what we heard you say. Based on our conversation, it sounds like your team is doing fantastic design work, but you're facing some common frustrations, blah, 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 blah. We understand this means your team is spending valuable hours, and then essentially tailor the solution to that, what success looks like. So you have specific parts here that you can essentially tell them, like this is the dream outcome, right? Like now you're painting the picture in the sales call. Imagine, like picture your client interaction becoming smoother and more transparent. Obviously you wouldn't do it this way, hence why I have this over here. Never use a one-size-all sales pitch. So don't necessarily copy this word for word, but try to understand the idea and the message is trying to convey, more so the feeling that it's trying to convey to the person hearing it. And of course, we have the objection handling guide. If they say it's too expensive, I understand. And then you have that. It even gives you, we're too busy to implement this. We're already using competitor X, it's okay. And you have the reframe along that as well. Perfect. Okay, now we can move on to this portion. So this is what's called frictionless closing, okay? We want to make it incredibly easy for the prospect to say yes and for them to give us money, okay? So what we need to do is we need to have clear next steps. After a positive presentation, clearly state the next steps. For example, I will send over the proposal and service agreement this afternoon for you to review, okay? And then you want to send a clean contract. Use clear, easy to understand language in your contracts and proposals. Include pricing, scope of work, and timelines. You want to follow up professionally and consistently without being pushy. And the moment the contract is signed, that's when the true work really begins. Remember that a poor onboarding experience can destroy the trust you just built. So you might have gone through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, part of step 5, you close the client, they see the onboarding process, and they ask for a refund. Okay? So you do not want that to happen. Hence why onboarding process is still a part of client acquisition. Okay? So your process should include a welcome kit, a kickoff call, and you need to set expectations from the very beginning. You can do this from a welcome email or a package, like a physical package, a formal meeting to introduce the team. Highly recommend that, aligning on goals and timelines. Of course, for this, we also have a prompt. So let's take a look and finalize it with this prompt as well, see what we can get out of it. But as you can see, everything here will take you less than an hour to do. Now, is everything you're going to get instantly usable? No, but it's going to take you literally 90% of the way there. All you're really going to have to do is massage this just a little bit on your own time with regards to your own industry, your own niche, your own problem, your own clients. But this does get you pretty much 80% of the way there by doing just 20% of the work. So this literally saves people, I kid you not, months of work, okay? This just understanding the first step of understanding who your customer is, then capturing attention and generating leads, right? Then nurturing them and qualifying them, then presenting the solution and handling objections, then presenting the solution and actually, oh, I just realized, I forgot to change the title for this, which is a little bit embarrassing, but this should be not present a solution and handle objections. This should be closing the deal and onboarding. That's what it should be. There we go. So see, even I sometimes make mistakes, but perfect. And that's pretty much it. Like, this is the full way that you can get your first client. If you follow every single step here, truly, if you spend the amount of time necessary to spend and you follow every step here, it would be unreasonable for you not to succeed. So please, use the links below in the description, do your deep research, understand your who, right? Find out how to capture their attention and generate leads. So find out where they live, quote unquote, right? In terms of, are they going to be on LinkedIn with inbound, right? Choose one inbound, choose one outbound, reach out to them, get the prospect, set up nurturing and qualification in your system, right? Present your solution and handle any objections on the sales calls, and then close the deal and begin your onboarding process. And for that, we'll wait until this finishes its job. And the second it does, I'll get back to you. Perfect. So we got our response. Let's take a look if the context was correct. Correct business proposal, core proposition value, yeah. Primary buyer is correct. Key lead magnet, also correct. So let's take a look and see what it came up with. So let it finish loading, and then I'll scroll up and then we can take a look. Perfect. So part one, okay, the closing and next steps template. Your patent, thank you again for your time. So this is right after the sales call. It was great discussing how demo can help tackle those challenges around As promised, here is the link which outlines everything we discussed, including investment details. Once you've had a chance to review and are ready to move forward, the next steps are simple. Sign the agreement, process the payment, welcome. Once signed, you'll receive an immediate welcome email with initial resources. And then this should tell you essentially how that's going to work. Now, for reference, I highly recommend signing the agreement and processing the payment being done on the call with you there, guiding the person, because most often than not, if you leave them be on their own terms, they might not do it, okay? The drop-off drops, right? The conversion rate drops. And as long as it's in your control, just do it on the call itself. Doesn't take anything away and just makes things better. Unless it's a very high ticket thing, which is a different conversation. But for most individuals, in 99% of cases, just get the payment on the call. Don't send a follow-up afterwards, just get the payment on the call. Okay, and then part two, we have the 30-day new onboarding plan, right? Once we onboard the user, we send them out with a proper welcome email for day one, and we have every single week thereafter set up with a proper agenda. So please use these actual scripts for yourself, because we are in a day and age where we don't have to do anything manually anymore. We can use AI to help us and reduce our workload by an astronomical amount. And sometimes AI can even complement our work and get us better results than we could have gotten on our own. So treat AI as a tool, right? Learn from it, utilize it to your advantage. And if you truly follow every single step here, understanding who it is you're reaching out to, being able to capture the attention and generate them as leads, and then nurturing them and qualifying them, presenting the solution, handling their objections, and closing the deal, and setting up a proper onboarding process, you will have no trouble getting your first client in 2025 as a software engineer. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.